All right. Welcome to the podcast, Aynsley.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's good to see you again. Been looking forward to this conversation for a while.
Yeah, likewise. I believe last time we did it, we ended up sparring instead.
Yes.
It was too nice of a day.
Yes. You got to capture the good weather here in Oregon. And Aynsley came over, and we like to train boxing and jujitsu. So we put the gloves on instead.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yes.
My bell rung a little bit, and I was like, oh man, I'm awake now.
We got to do it again. We got to do it again.
For sure.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, Aynsley's been a friend of mine for a while, and we have a good time, but haven't had a chance to dive deep and talk counseling with Aynsley for a while. And so want to hear the latest things that he's involved in and how he's developing his clinic, his counseling center, and the work that he does with clinicians. But before we dive into that, would love to hear a little bit about your background, Aynsley, for listeners.
Yeah. So I've been practicing for almost 10 years now. Coming up on 10 years. I graduated at the end of 2011 from Western Seminary, and probably the best 4 years of my life there. It was a really transformative time of my life. I was a new Christian when I ended up there. They almost didn't let me into the program.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. They do the MMPI and I forget what else, the other psychological assessments, and it was very honest about where I was, and I got in on academic probation for the first year.
Okay.
Yeah. And Dave was the one that did most of my interviewing, and he was my reader for the paper, the dissertation at the end.
Dr. Dave Wenzel is Dave, and he was also one of my favorite professors and advised me going through the program. Awesome. Yeah.
So when they it was interesting, like the professors did like this dinner at the end of our time together, and they got to see me go through a lot of growth as a new believer and somebody who came with a very checkered past. Like I grew up in a household where there was a lot of emotional abuse, and it was pretty tumultuous, and I played football as a way of kind of dealing with that. I kind of fell into it, and it helped me out a lot, and probably saved me from not graduating high school, and probably not getting in more trouble than I got into already. And so I was pretty honest about all this stuff with them. They let me in anyway. And when the dinner came for graduation, where the professors, they kind of do like, or they did it when I was there anyway. I don't know if they still do this. They serve us dinner, and they give kind of like little speeches about us, and encourage us and pray with us. It was a really amazing time. Dave was giving out awards, and he gave me he's like, you've come a long way, baby. You've come a long way, Aynsley. Like that was my award. And he was roasting me a little bit, and he was like, when you let someone into the program, and just because you want to see what's going to happen, and you're not really sure about them. He was like, that was Aynsley, and I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Which I thought it was hilarious. He when I walked up to get the award, he was like, was that okay? And I was like, oh man, that was great, perfect. Like, because I'm kind of that's my temperament. Just I kind of want to see what's going to happen. The chaotic good, like I'm very into stepping into conflict. I'm a 8 on the Enneagram, and that really comes out in my desires for clients. Like I ended up doing work with LifeWorks Northwest for about 2.5 years, doing intensive community-based treatment, so crisis stabilization with children, making sure that they're safe in the home, and keeping them out of psychiatric residential treatment or jail. And I did really well with the angry boys and developed the Angry Boy Whisperer a nickname that's kind of stuck with me ever since, and started private practice under Joe Clems, who's the head of real life counseling. I was with him when it was in its infancy, and really great guy. You should get him on here. He's a really cool dude. And then, you know, like I specialize in doing work with men and angry boys just because they're near and dear to my heart, and you know, I'm one of them, and all the issues that pop up with that. So that's a little bit about me and the story. I kind of got going. I was like, oh yeah,
like,
this is
yes.
Should I keep going or?
Oh, it's good. I mean, it's good to remember like where you came from and how you've grown. So 10 years under your belt, and lots of it working with angry boys and guys. We could probably do a couple podcasts on that subject, right?
Oh,
like
yeah,
masculinity and the challenges that boys and teenagers face. But there's another topic that we want to focus on today. But before we bounce to that, what would you say, maybe for parents, often moms that are concerned about their son who might be struggling emotionally or in school?
Find help, you know, like especially single moms, it's tough to do it on your own and to be everything to your child. And you know, single moms are working, trying to put food on the table, trying to be dad and mom to their son. And if they have multiple kids, you know, it's tough being a single mom. And so relying on family members, the community, is a really big deal, and getting guys in their lives if they can. If you can't, that's fine too. You know, just having that support network around, so that it's not just the single mom trying to run the show and be everything to the kids. That ends up getting really tough and stressful. The other thing I would say is the big feelings, the emotions, right? Like listen to them. Like don't like really honor the feelings and the anger before trying to change it or redirecting it. And obviously, this is not something I would say about somebody who's blowing up, right? Like an active, like you know, this kid melting down and hitting and kicking, or you know, just being kind of belligerent. But I mean, like when the kid's really talking, like at night or home after school, and you know, you're playing with your son and the stuff's just coming out. Most moms have a tendency to get defensive because they've done so much and their kid still feels this way or hurt. You know, it's hard to see their kiddo wrestling with this stuff. So really being able to see it, listen to it, accept it, and then try to do something with it, and really involve, depending on the age, but you know, over 9 years of age, 9 and over, really involve them in the process too. Like, is there anything I can do? I know this is really hard. I love you. You know, things like that. It's a little more involved in that, but generally, like honor the anger and the frustration and the pain, because most of the time, like, the kids don't want to be in that situation and they have to be.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's good. I'm starting to learn about internal family systems and the idea that there's no bad parts. and so like the idea that the part that might be anxious or angry, it's not that it's bad. It serves a function, and sometimes anger serves a function.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so angry boys, they grow up to be angry guys,
Oh yeah.
angry dudes and adults. um any additional thoughts about guys and gals, but that struggle with anger? What can they
Yeah.
do? Then
So
they're
I
not
do,
with their
I
parents.
for sure, and this doesn't just apply to men. It's just like those are the that's the demographic that's near and dear to my heart. I do see women who struggle with anger as well, and most of the time when they come in, they say something like I can't see another counselor because I'm too scary or imposing, or I'm too much. They say something like that, like other counselors can't handle my big feelings. I'm like,
Yeah.
great, like we're gonna be just fine. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
but with guys, yeah, they grow up, and the anger does a few different things. It ends up manifesting as addictions, poor relationships, overworking, and when it's unhealthy, um, codependency, depression, some anxieties. There's the anxious anger as well. So they'll come in with all these issues, and the part of the goal is creating a life that, well, stabilization first, um like, hey, we got to get you stable, like all the stuff that's not going well, like we have to address it so that we can get you to where that you want to go, right? So you're not blowing up, we're not acting out, in, sexually or chemically or behaviorally, in order to deal with the feelings. Like, we got to learn how to deal with them. Jason Wilson, do you know him? Have you heard of him? So he was on Joe Rogan not too long ago. He's a martial artist, who, his life's
Oh,
work is
Cave
like,
of Adullam,
yeah,
the martial arts
exactly, yeah,
instructor. Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So he's creating comprehensive boys and comprehensive men is what he likes to call it, and guys who are, emotionally intelligent, and they, run into the conflict with their internal, landscape, where their feelings are coming from, and rather than avoiding them, or hiding them, lying about it, or, dealing with it in a way where it's what he calls it, like misconstrued masculinity, where, they're engaging in their maleness in an unhealthy way.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like, I really like the way he frames that stuff, and that's, like the direction that we start to go as well. Like, after we get people stable, where they're less depressed, they're not, hating themselves because of how they're treating their family and, their children and their wives, um, and they start to learn these emotional skills to be able to calm down, to be able to deal with problems, to not run from them, and feel competent, really, in being able to live their life. We
Nice.
build a kind of a vision of, you know you're the boss, right, in your life. Like, so where do we want this ship to sail? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Like, what's going to make a good life for you, to where you don't want to, check out. You want to continually, like, move further into it. And so that especially is super helpful with the addictive behaviors, that where you create a life that you don't want to check out from, and it becomes crazy to want to throw it away for something else, because it's a good life. So that's the long and short of the work that I do with guys. It looks a little different for depression or anxiety or PTSD addictions, but like, those are the overall, like, major themes.
Nice. I can hear like the stabilization and helping them manage their emotions and make healthier choices, that it like frees them up from guilt or shame with like how they've treated other people. Like I've worked with folks where it's like I got dealt a pretty messed up deck or hand growing up, and it's like like I don't want I don't want to treat people uh poorly, but like I'm out of control, and uh you know feeling more like you said competent to live a healthy life. It's so freeing, makes such a
And
difference.
yeah, and it's a really practical way of addressing the efforts, like what when the hopelessness, but typically what it turns into is something like effort, and then they just end up doing whatever. I mean, and myself as well. Like I just end up doing whatever it is, the impulsive, compulsive thing that popped into my head that I want to do or I used to do.
Mhm.
And knowing that, like I can do this, like I know what the skill is, like it's gonna work. And it's a little grace for the journey. Like I might mess it up, but I'm trying and I've got help. Isolation, I forgot to talk about that. Isolation is one of the biggest issues for guys as well. Like
Mhm.
and I really mean how many people know you, right? Like
Mhm.
when guys that come in that are struggling with these things, I ask them how many friends do they have. The, Often they'll say not many or none, outside of their romantic relationships. And then how many, and this follow-up question is, if they do have friends, how many people know you and know what's going on with you? Like they really know you, like everything about you, like you can show up and they really know who you are. If they make it past the first question, with friends, that those numbers drop then even more significantly. So guys largely are on an island, that come in struggling with these issues, and that isolation is death. I mean, like that's part of what leads people in the addictive world into relapse. I mean, that's a part of what feeds depression and all kinds of other really bad things.
Mhm. Yeah, so true. So the uh, to shift gears a little bit. So
Yeah, yeah,
uh, got your degree or graduated 10 years ago.
yeah.
Did some private practice or part of a group, starting out with real life and.
So they took me under their wing, and I was doing that kind of real part time, while I was working with the agency. Got a couple of contracts with Clark County Juvenile Justice and uh, uh, what is it? It was, Child and Family Services. It's something. It's Youth, Family, Child and Services, something like that. CPS now. They've changed the name a couple times, but
Mm.
so I was doing functional family therapy, going out to the homes and doing stabilization work over here in Vancouver.
Mm.
And yeah, and then I went private practice full time and was with Lacamas Counseling for a while, and then started to hire people, and so moved out of there and have been growing ever since.
Mm. Yeah. In these transitions, where has like courage shown up in your life? Like what
Oh man,
like is this because you said you kind of like the chaotic good. So
yeah.
so uh it does, and you can handle like angry people and intense big emotions. But what have been like the challenges and.
Well, yeah. So I come up with ideas that I want to do that I think sound like fun for my career, and that's kind of been the transition for almost everything. Um, so like when I was working with LifeWorks, I was like, hey, I really want to, like, if I'm going to stay here, here's what I want it to look like. I want to be the like, because they had contracts with different facilities in the area, and they were placing counselors in those facilities, and they would see the kids in those facilities, and that would be like their day. They wouldn't have to travel and stuff like that. And being able to be the guy at one of the boys' homes sounded like a lot of fun. So I was like, all right, sweet, I want to do that. and I don't want to like do assessments anymore. Like, because a part of the job was you have to essentially be a jack of all trades. If we need you to be the assessment person, you have to go out and do assessments. If we need you to answer crisis calls, we want you to do that. I didn't want the crisis phone, and like I really wanted to be at a home with the boys and like really get to know them and really invest in them. And so we tried to make that work. It ended up not working. So I stayed there for a while, and then thought that I've always wanted to do family therapy, and an opportunity came up to subcontract with for functional family therapy, and so I got into that. Western, we took I think one class in family therapy, and then one of my internship sites, I tried to tell them I wanted to do family therapy and to learn it, and had an opportunity to, but the George Fox people took priority over us because they were the MFT people. And so I finally got to learn it. And the functional family therapy, if anybody's going to learn a type of family therapy, I'm a little biased, but it is systematic, phase-based, and it is well researched for the populations that they serve. So I really like it because there's not a lot of guesswork, and when people are done, and when to transition through the phases. So
nice.
I started, so I did that for a couple of years, and then Priscilla over at Lacamas was like, hey, we want to put together a group of friends, and like we're all going to work together. It's going to be awesome. And they were all my friends from Western, which was like one of the most transformative 4 years of my life. And I was like, dude, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be like college all over again. And it was. And so like through these transitions, like I feel like God developed me in a number of different ways to continue to move me through these seasons to where I'm at right now. So like I learned the family counseling, and so then I started doing more work with parents, because I wasn't very good with parents. I was really good with the angry boys, but I didn't know how to deal with the parents, and I didn't know how to really engage with them in a way that was that made sense and was as far as counseling goes, like there was a clear therapeutic process. It was more like psychoeducation. So after learning functional family therapy, I really developed my skills with the angry boys even further, which was awesome. So the parents liked me more. They didn't like me as much before that. Like,
so you were able to like include them or engage them, help them engage in the process.
Yeah. So functional family therapy is kind of the parents are a piece of the process. They're change agents. So if they're not in the room, you're essentially not doing your job from that model. And if things aren't changing, you're missing a person. So like if things aren't changing and you only have mom, then you're going to need to figure out how to get dad in. Or if you've got both of them and things aren't changing, then maybe it's a brother or sister, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, something's missing. And so it really expanded my idea of who needs to be in the room in order for things to change and for the change to stick and for things to go well. So it was a really fun time at Lacamas Counseling, really cool. But then I got the idea of like, okay, now I want to like get into neurofeedback, because a part of my healing journey, I started to do neurofeedback for myself. I heard about it in school, kind of thought it was snake oil, and I ended up getting neurofeedback from a guy who I work closely with now. He actually subcontracts for me to do brain maps. He heard me on the phone. I was talking to him, and he was like, "You sound like a Christian." I was like, "Yeah, I am." And he was like, "You ask really great questions. I'm really full right now. Do you want to be friends instead of like being a client of mine?" And I was like, "Sure." And he was like, "And I'll teach you neurofeedback. I'll teach you how to do it and like mentor you." And I'm like, "Dude, that sounds awesome!" Like,
wow.
Yeah. So we so we did it, and like we my wife just watched his kids not too long ago. We're great friends and do business together often, and it's just like it's really fun seeing who God brings into my life and how he adds to the story, like randomly, because I was just looking to for some answers, and then a friend popped in my lap. So, started learning neurofeedback, and I was like, this equipment is sitting here in my office when I'm not here, not getting used, super expensive. How do I get it to essentially like be used when I'm not around? Like, oh, I'll hire somebody. So I started hiring people, and that was kind of where I had to leave Lacamas, because the model that they have wasn't jiving with what I wanted to do. So it was a really hard decision, but I ended up going to another spot where I was going to be able to hire my first employee. Well, he was a 1099 contractor. So, but the first contractor that I hired, and I learned a lot, still learning a lot about 1099 versus W-2, and
as a business owner and
man.
and having
Yeah.
employees.
Oh yeah. So like there's like still learning, still like, oh man, like trying to do it right and do it once. And so I'm putting more thought and effort into my transitions than I was doing before. Before it was just like, all right, let's go, guns blazing.
Good idea.
Yeah,
let's go.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Yeah. Like, and so I learned a lot teaching Johnny, and Johnny Yorga is the guy. He's still with us, that I first hired. So he's actually in Western's program right now. He's almost done. So that's fun. Yeah. He was with me for about a year before he started bringing on other people, and I had talked with people over the years about neurofeedback. A good friend, Bethy Cummings, who was previously Bethy Duvall. She went to Western as well. We graduated really close together. My mom's working in the other room right now. So people started popping up during this time. I had a friend from dance. I do swing dancing. That's kind of how my wife and I met. She was really unhappy with the agency that she's at, and like things weren't going well. And I was like, well, we could try to find room for you. I've already hired one person. Like, let me think about it, and you think about it. And kind of the idea that started forming was, I jumped out of agency work because the agency work stopped being something that was giving me life, that it was exciting and paying me a fair wage, and being able to support me in the ways that they ought to be supporting me. And so like there was a slow shift into feeling like it wasn't a good move for my life staying there at the agency. And so I kind of realized all this stuff, and I thought through, okay, well, what were the transitions for me? What did I realize, and how do I help people through those transitions, and how do I help them build a career of counseling that they set out to do originally? Because in counseling school, like we don't really talk about agency work as a career most of the time. That's the pros and cons of agency work is kind of in the background somewhere, but it was talked about, and experiencing it is real different than talking about it. So the idea that I had was like how do I kind of do some of this work that I'm doing with the guys, with everybody, and like how do we create vision, how do we create purpose, how do we keep as much money as we can in the pockets of the people that are working here, and reduce the barrier of entry. So like I've created systems, like I know how to do it. It's not something that people are going to have to figure out as they go. So I started talking to Sarah, and I was like, so like, what did you want counseling to be like? Like, we can try to create a place where you're getting paid a fair wage, and you're seeing the demographic that, you know, at the end of the day, you're saying that was a good day. You know, like I could see explosive angry boys for 8 hours a day, and I would be energized at the end of that. I love it. Yeah. Oh, you want to hit me? That's great. Let's talk about that. Like, let me tell you why that's going to be a bad idea. Like, how about we calm down instead? You want some juice? Like, how about a fidget? Like, and then you can tell me what's up, man. Like, yeah.
Get that out of the way.
Yeah. Jedi mind trick, you know, like, we're not going to do that. That's not a good idea. But yeah, so like that ended up being kind of like our vision together as a group. Like, how do we create a place where people look forward to coming to work and doing the work that they love, and get compensated fairly for it, so they can pay the bills and not feel like they're getting taken advantage of or something like that.
Yeah. So you've been working with clients for years, families, parents, but you're really like developing counselors and helping them with their careers and
and
find
business,
satisfaction.
Like, and Sarah says, you saved my career. I was thinking about quitting. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was happening. Yeah, I was like, and that's fun, you know, like, oh, you don't have to throw away the years that you spent counseling and leave the field, you know, like you can have longevity, and we can figure that out together. And, you know, that's a really fun thing to do. And we're getting better at it every year. You know, we learn a lot every year together. And so, like, I really develop a collaborative process with everybody. Like, hey, here's what's up. Here's what the finances look like. What do you think? We just looked at a new building. We all went down there. Like, does everybody think it's a good idea? Yep. All right, great. So we're gonna try to get it.
Oh, nice. So
yeah.
What have you grown your team to now?
So we've got 9 now.
Wow.
We went from 1 to 9 within 2 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
counting
awesome.
myself. Yeah. So we've got 4 neurofeedback technicians, and 3 counselors and an admin person. So we need a new space.
Nice.
Yeah.
So with the time that we have remaining, I want to ask you a little bit more about neurofeedback. You mentioned that, like, when you first heard of it, it was like maybe snake oil, a little skeptical about it.
Oh man, yeah.
But it's been very helpful for you, and I'm not familiar with it much. I'm familiar with biofeedback, and some providers at Kaiser provide that for different presenting issues. But yeah.
So neurofeedback, I mean, so biofeedback would be the same as like math, and then neurofeedback would be like calculus, and your heart rate variability would be like geometry, right? Like, so biofeedback's the overarching category that all of the subcategories of the different types of biofeedback fall into, and neurofeedback would be one of them. And the feedback is essentially like you're looking at your body's system, like if it's your pulse, your heart rate, your peripheral temperature, or your brain waves. You're figuring out a way to see what your body's doing in order to change it, and you create a feedback loop. And so neurofeedback, a part of how it does it is through operant and classical conditioning. And so the brain's a really complicated organ, and there's different quality and quantity of signal that gets produced by the different cells that are in there, like your neurons or your glial cells. And so what neurofeedback does, it creates a feedback loop with the different systems that might be creative negative symptoms. We listen to it, we with the little stethoscopes of the electrodes, the system puts it up on the screen and interprets it, and then sends back the reward and inhibit through the TV. And what ends up happening is the TV will get smaller, or the colors will change. You'll score less points. Things will slow down. The volume will change, and then there's a vibrating paddle that sometimes we use that will produce different types of vibrations. Your brain sees that, and it's like, oh, I'm doing that. Like, that's interesting.
Like my foot is on the gas pedal or brake, and I have control of what's happening.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then so there are rewards and inhibits as well. So then certain brain activity will be encouraged or discouraged.
So so you're targeting the activation or or slowing down of specific areas of your brain?
So up or down. There's a lot of different types of neurofeedback. So understanding that some types of neurofeedback will target specific brain waves and will do what we're talking about and train them up or down. Other types will focus on the connectivity, like how different parts of the brain communicate, and it gets those different parts to communicate better. And so it's not changing frequency at all, but it's enabling the brain to communicate with the different parts more efficiently. There is other types that are non-judgmental, that it's showing the brain when it changes, not calling it like good or bad, just that it's happening. So there's a lot of different ways to get at it, depending on the symptoms and depending on what the practitioner has been trained in and familiar with.
I see. Yeah. So who are the clients, the people that benefit from neurofeedback?
Oh, that's a big question too. The brain's responsible for a lot in the body. So depending on how they hear about neurofeedback, we can get people from pain clinics. We can get people who've suffered from migraines that have been non-responsive to other things, seizure patients. Often we'll get people who have tried a lot of different types of counseling and it hasn't really worked. We'll also get people who are not really into medication or want to come off of medication, because the medication doesn't change how your brain is functioning, which is why medication and counseling produce the best results. Because through the counseling and the repetition of the skills that you're practicing, your brain's creating new neural pathways to deal with the problems. So we're doing that without the counseling and without the medication. So we're interacting with the same systems that medication does, but we're not doing it at a chemical level. We're doing it at an electrical level.
With activity, with the electrical activity.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating. Well, when I was going through grad school, I was a sleep tech, and we did limited montage, not the full thing that people would do for like being tested for epilepsy, but would connect people electrodes to people's scalps and stare at their brain waves all night, try to stay awake, watch them sleep, and see the different stages of sleep through their brain patterns. So that's neat. It's a treatment where it's really targeting brain activity to help with physical symptoms and emotional symptoms. So depression, anxiety,
PTSD.
PTSD. It helps with recovering from that and trauma.
Yeah, it's really good. So Bessel van der Kolk had a whole section on it in The Body Keeps the Score, which is a part of what gave it legitimacy for me after reading it. And I believe in one of the sections, the story goes something like they had a guy that they were trying it on. The guy didn't want to talk, and then like got better without talking, and the counselor had a really hard time with that. Like,
I've been replaced. Yeah.
But like we can interact with those systems where the brain's stuck, and if you think about it from the neurological level, like the trauma was so intense that the brain is dysregulated and is trying to keep the person safe in situations where that rule no longer applies. So a part of the well, ideally they're out of the situation and they're safe. That's not always true. But what we do with neurofeedback is the systems that are responsible for calming the nervous system with anxiety, depression, emotional reactivity. We give it the resources to be able to do that, and then we focus on the centers. That's the stability part, and then we focus on the centers that are responsible for processing information and being able to have thoughts and experiences that allow the brain to let go. So, and that one's called alpha theta. It's pretty specific. There's it's really good with addictions as well. The trauma protocol, very good with addictions. So we do things that we're doing in counseling, only it's more like a massage. You sit in the chair and you come in, 1 to 3 times a week, and you get the treatment, and then you report your symptoms, whether or not they're getting better. It's a big collaborative process, and we watch trends over time when we're tracking the symptoms, and so we know if we're doing the right or the wrong thing in session, and we can make adjustments, and it's pretty fantastic stuff.
So I like that, like it's like massage therapy. So it's a procedure that you undergo. It's not necessarily like training a skill like mindfulness or relaxation or progressive muscle.
But people might need that as well. So we're resourcing the brain. We're not changing people's identities or giving them new skills. So the brain wants to feel good. It wants to operate what it considers normally, and so we're helping it do that. But if we're doing that and the person lacks the skills to go out and find a job or whatever, we're not going to be able to change that with neurofeedback. So like for children, for example, this is a really good one where my kid doesn't do their homework, and then blows up because I'm trying to get them to do their homework, and I'm like, okay. So we take the blow up away with neurofeedback, because whatever was going on with that kid, we can calm it down. The kid's still not doing the homework. Well, okay, well that becomes a skill issue and potentially a parenting issue.
I see.
And
so it helps with the reactivity and all the the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight stuff. And then now that things are settled, now we can work on skills or the communication,
and that's really,
relationship.
and that's really big with addictions and trauma, because with addictions, especially if people have been childhood abuse that led into addictions later on, like they lack some of the skills. Like, I don't want to be doing this, like we talked about earlier, and I can't keep from doing it. So now you have choice, right? And kind of like C.S. Lewis talks about in the Mere Christianity. Now you have choice. We've given you more raw resources and the ability to make choice. We can't tell you what to do with it, though. That's a counseling issue.
Okay, so it goes hand in hand. You guys you use it. Neat.
It can. Yeah. It doesn't need to. If people are doing trauma work, though, like with alpha theta, we do ask them to be in counseling, or at least have one on deck, like a counselor that they know and they're already established with, because things might pop up that they need to go and talk about and learn some skills about how to think about it and what that might mean for their life.
Yeah, nice. So PTSD, migraines, pain management, depression, mood disorders. Does it help with sleep? Help with slow your brain down?
No, for sure. So both not being able to get to sleep because there's something going on where sleep onset is an issue, and being able to stay asleep, because we end up regulating sleep rhythms and patterns in the brain. SMR is really good with that, the beta spindles, and depending on if there are instabilities or something like that, we can get the brain to a spot where the sleeping cycles are more within normal ranges, and people aren't spending an hour plus to get to bed. They're falling asleep within 20 minutes and
Yes.
staying asleep the whole night.
Nice.
Yeah.
So sounds amazing. What would you recommend, Aynsley, for someone who's listening? Or like, wow, that sounds really good, but I kind of want to like learn more about it.
Well, they could check out our website. We have some resources on there for clinicians and for people who are just brand spanking new. Fircrestbh.com. We also have a Facebook page at Fircrest BH over there on the Facebook. And we're doing classes. The goal is to do them once a month. We just started a very general public intro to neurofeedback. What is it? Those are posted on our Facebook page. There's also a 4-minute video on like what a session looks like.
Nice.
The resources for clinicians on our website. There's a 2-hour training that Josh and I did. I rewatched it the other day. It's very cautionary because it's for clinicians, and I think one of the things that Josh wanted to communicate was like, if you choose to get into this as a clinician and learn it, you just kind of got to understand that it's essentially like learning counseling all over again. Like, like it's a task, but not an impossible one by any stretch of the imagination. It's just it'll take work. It's not plug and play most of the time. So some of them are, but those are non-clinical versions. And then like they can reach out to us as well. We're happy to answer questions and meet for coffee and stuff like that. We're kind of nerds about this stuff. We've got an intern that we just took on for neurofeedback. The goal is to have at least one intern at any given time, so that the services are more accessible for the general public, so we can have services at different price points, with the understanding that you're paying the cost enough to cover cost, and you're helping this person learn how to provide neurofeedback services. So there's a variety of ways and interest levels that we're trying to meet, and hopefully we'll be doing 2 interns at a time. I think 2 interns at a time is probably the best, so that people aren't alone, and it's kind of more like a cohort, and they can bounce ideas off each other. But we're not there yet, so we're still developing the program.
Yeah. Well, I hope the next step with getting the new building goes well. It's really good to catch up with you and hear all the exciting growth and developments with your group. Any last thoughts for today?
So many. I mean, like, if any of this interests anybody, like reach out, like really seriously, like I love talking to people about this stuff. I love connecting people with other people. Like, oh, like you're interested in this, or this sounded cool. You should definitely talk to this person over there, who is into that as well. So like please don't hesitate. I don't give out my info anymore, just because I get a lot of stuff, but these are some of the things that we tell the office people, like forward that to me, like those are the things that I enjoy doing and I'm interested in. So okay. Yeah, great.
Thank you, Aynsley.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Would love to have you back on and just pick your brain a little bit more about working with clients. So thank you for your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was fun.
See you next time.
See ya.